Micah Parsons made his first appearance on a Packers injury report Wednesday. He was listed as limited due to that back injury that the defensive end brought with him from Dallas in last week's trade. A report this week indicated that he's dealing with a facet joint sprain in his back and may need a pain-killing injection to play against the Lions on Sunday. Here's Matt LaFleur with more.
We'll see. I mean, we're still he's doing everything in his power. He's rehabbing hard. We've got to get through a couple practices to see how he responds, to see how he does, but certainly hopeful.
RC, no one's clamoring to see Micah Parsons out there in a Green Bay uniform. It's not like all eyes would be on him.
Yeah.
But do you think Green Bay should play it safe and sit Micah?
So I think they should play it smart. That doesn't mean play it safe and sit him.
Okay.
You got to understand where he is. And, I already know what Dan's going to say because he thinks that Matthew Stafford can play through any back injury. So he's probably going to be like Micah Parsons, should go out there and play 80 snaps. But you also have to understand that Micah Parsons didn't get an opportunity to participate in training camp because of the hold-in with the Dallas Cowboys. And honestly, I thought that this back injury was something that Heavy Pockets could fix. And clearly, it's not. And so now, if you're the Green Bay Packers, you have to look at Micah Parsons. You have to evaluate Micah Parsons, see where he is for this game, and see if having him on the field helps this team more than it hurts Micah Parsons' prospects for the future in this season.
I think you play it safe because, and listen, I don't know, y'all played.
You're saying sit him?
Yeah. Just for the game. I'm just saying because he hasn't been practicing, because he hasn't been in quote-unquote football conditioning. Because he's been sitting out so much, I just think it's the safe way to go. Again, he knows his body better than anybody. Their medical staff is going to evaluate him. Understand where I'm coming from. This is about a Super Bowl. You get Micah Parsons with Rashawn Gary. You get them two brothers being able to go at the quarterback. You got Jordan Love. Expectations are high. We all know the brother could play. We just look for him in big moments. But we see what they've got available with them. Josh Jacobs coming out of the backfield. Jordan Love is supposed to be that dude now. Okay. You got this kid Matthew Golden that's supposed to be a stud. Romeo, where art thou, Romeo Dobbs? He's on the spot. Okay. You've got a crew. Kraft is good at your tight end spot. You're looking at this Green Bay Packers team, although you look at Philadelphia and Detroit as being teams potentially standing in the way. Green Bay is right in the mix now. They got Super Bowl aspirations. You do everything you can to put yourself in prime position to make sure you can deliver.
Play him. Unleash the beast. This is a guy that I've heard you say, like one of the most physically talented people you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. He calls himself the Lion. Unleash him. What do we trade him for? Or what do we trade for him if we're just going to – are we saying sit him because you're concerned about practice and his, ability to get up to speed or because of the back?
First off, I didn't say sit him. I said play it smart, right? I said you got to understand what he can do.
And that's because of practice and, getting up to speed with what they do or because of his back?
Well, combination of his back and the fact that he hasn't been practicing, because I've heard Dan Orlovsky say on many, many occasions in the past, if a cat hasn't been out there practicing and getting himself in football shape, you might want to be a
and you heard it from Dan Orlovsky.
I've heard it from Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah, you're a great listener.
Damn right.
You're a great listener.
Damn right.
You know what? You know what you don't know, and you are brilliant.
That's right.
Because you listen to those who are.
Because I listen to those who know. And I steal it from y'all. Y'all teach me football. I get it from y'all. That's why I love. That's why I love. I wait for you to say something like that. I got the tape. I got the tape. And I think I've proven I watch y'all. You understand what I'm saying? How many times have I called you? I see you everywhere.
Yeah. So you think
taking on the double team.
You think we don't want to play him because of his back, but 5 or 6 days later, let's get him on the field. The back is going to resolve itself in a week?
No, I didn't say the back. I said that he hadn't been practicing.
He plays defensive end. Go get the ball, quarterback.
The combination, you can pull a hamstring, anything happen.
Here's my thing.
Make sure you play.
I say play it smart.
Who's the best division of football?
The North.
Okay. Yeah. So the Vikings went what? I think 14-3.
They were 14-2 before they nosedived the last two games. Right. The last game regular season.
14-3. You gotta let go of that. You gotta Elsa that thing.
I mean, they got their ass kicked, and y'all.
All right, Elsa. All right, Elsa. Let go of it.
Sam Darnold.
So
you
mean to tell me?
He's your guy.
So the Vikings are 14-3. The Lions are 15-2. The Bears should be significantly improved. We're just gonna say, hey, we traded for this guy that's a generational talent, ridiculous football player, defensive player of the year candidate. Let's sit him because he hasn't been
Just talk about
practicing
one game.
in a divisional game.
Yeah, you keep talking that way. When you have a discussion for me, you can turn this way.
But you
that's
said
not my
sit,
discussion.
because you said play it safe.
RC,
So
what do you think?
No,
Is one
he
game,
said safe.
tell me, is one game
but
going to make a difference, honestly?
My thing is play it safe based on the evaluation of his back, right? Because the thing is this, if you signed him to a one-year deal, if Micah Parsons was on some sort of deal that allowed him to re-up after this season, if he was playing on the tag, then that's a different thing. Everybody has a different motivation. This motivation is about winning a Super Bowl. And it's not just about winning this Super Bowl. It's about trying to get to another Super Bowl in the 5 years that you have him signed for a landmark, historic deal for a non-quarterback. And so my thought is this. If Micah Parsons is struggling with the back, if the back is a little tight, let's use him in passing situations. Let's use him in 2 minutes. Let's use him in the red zone. Let's use him on third down. Because what this does is allows him to get acclimated without having the extensive training camp time that the rest of the people have had, and he gets to do exactly what you said, which is go get the quarterback.
Your vantage point isn't specific to just the Lions game. It's like the start of the season, easing him into the start of the season rather than just. So you're saying play him, but maybe not 80 snaps.
And that's what I'm saying. If his back is fine, play him as much as you want to. I'm not worried about that.
We see it the same
right?
way.
Because what happens is if his cardio isn't where it needs to be, he's not a quarterback. He gets to say, hey,
sure,
get me out. And so, but my thing is, if Micah Parsons playing more snaps, if Micah Parsons being on the field somehow puts him in a position where you can hinder who he is for the rest of this season, that's not smart football if I'm just trying to prove to people, look why I got this Lion because we're playing the Lion.
We know the Bengals have been abysmal in the month of September, and it's cost them come playoff time. Well, they hope to change that narrative starting Sunday. Joe Burrow, talk to me.
I certainly think that the narrative surrounding our team has shifted. I'm not sure I would say most to prove. I would say that we certainly are trying to go out and win as much as we can. We're putting in a lot of work for it.
Burrow opens the season in Cleveland, a team he is only 3-5 against in his career. Compared to the rest of the league, Joe Burrow averages 249 passing yards per game when playing the Browns, compared to his 277 against the rest of the NFL. Stephen A., do you feel like, based on this history, that these first 2 weeks will determine their season?
I believe it will. I believe it will because I have no reason to believe otherwise. And I want to state this, RC and DO. If the Bengals start this season 0-2 or 0-3, and they end up winning, having a winning record, but they're missing the playoffs, I'm firing Zach Taylor. I'm firing him. I'm sick of this. What the hell? Y'all think I'm joking when I say this. What the hell are you doing from February to September that your teams are never ready to play the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season? In 12 games for the first 2 weeks of the season, spanning 6 years, this man is 1-11. Joe Burrow is 1-4. Why? What the hell is going on? The season starts in early September. Why are they never ready to play? They're a 500 team in the month of October. They're 7-10-1 in the month of September. Why? Why? The season starts in September. What are you doing? You're missing playoffs by one game or whatever. What you losing to the Patriots last year for? And you scored 10 points with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in the lineup. How'd that happen? Or T. Higgins or anybody else? I'm looking at this record right now with Joe Burrow. 1-4 record. 207.6 yards passing per game. Only 4 touchdowns thrown. Hasn't thrown a touchdown in the season opener. Hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in a season opener in 3 years. How? How? At some point in time, when you look at Baltimore, you look at Cincinnati, you look at Baltimore, you look at Kansas City, you look at Buffalo, you know those three gonna be there. You look at Houston, you're looking at Pittsburgh, you're looking at Miami and these other teams. Where you gonna be at? You gotta win. You can't start off 0-2 or 0-3. Not after you, Joe Burrow, you come on national television on first take during Super Bowl week. Yo, we gotta pay Jamar Chase. Yo, we gotta pay T. Higgins. Yo, we gotta pay Trey Anderson. And they got all 3 of them signed. All 3 of them. We only thought it was going to be one. Probably needed to let go of another like T. Higgins, let him go somewhere else, get some equitable compensation in return for his services. Maybe not Henderson either. The defense stunk with them anyway. So what they going to do without him, even though he had 35 sacks, 4.5 more than anybody else over the last 2 years? You still looked at them and you said, yo, might not be enough. Got all 3 of them signed anyway. You got to win the first week, two weeks of the season. You just got to.
Yeah, you got to win, but winning the first 2 weeks of this season tells me nothing about the Cincinnati Bengals. It tells me that they've worked to fix some of the issues they've had in week 1 and week 2. But I believe
before you continue, would losing tell you something?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to hear.
If
they
lose the first 2, the season's over.
I agree.
And I know that feels hyperbolic. It feels like we're overreacting, but you played the Jaguars and the Browns. You played the Browns week 1, the Jaguars week 2. You know who you play after that, though? You play the Vikings, the Broncos, the Lions, the Packers, and the Steelers before you play the Jets. And I said all of those teams, and you still haven't played the Ravens at all. So if this team starts 0-2, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
If this team starts 0-2, let's think to ourselves, okay, we need to rebuild the coaching staff, because you know what you can't change? You're not going to be able to change the roster. Because so much money has already been sunken into the quarterback, into both wide receivers. Trey Hendrickson is going to have to go somewhere else if he wants a long, big, extensive deal. And so to me, the way they start this season only tells me who they are if they lose them. Because if they lose them, we have to move on from the Cincinnati Bengals as a team that can contend for an AFC championship.
I'm totally in lockstep with you guys. It also would mean if they start 0-2, Joe Burrow is going to go 3 straight years not making the playoffs. We just don't. We don't have greats at that position in that league go that long without being in the playoffs. I think the last guy was Drew Brees. I think did it 3 years in a row when they went like 8-8 in New Orleans. Steven, so the Bengals kind of like our two-tiered team. We've talked about how bad the defense was last year, but the start was in part to the offense. They've been bad the last 3 seasons to start the season. That offense, that is absolutely sensational. In the first 2 weeks of the season, they're bottom 5 in touchdowns, they're bottom 5 in points per game, they're bottom 5 in yards per play. Part of that, if we're just being like transparent and fair, Joe's been hurt.
Yes.
Joe hasn't had an off season. Joe has been, it was the wrist, it was the calf. And so this is, in his words, the best he's felt maybe ever in his NFL career.
Okay.
And he played in the preseason. So that offense should hit the ground running and look like it did most of last year.
Okay.
So like I do want to agree with the offense, but in part because of the injuries. I do think that the defense will be the focal point of what it looks like in the first 2 weeks. To RC's point, if we can't defensively play better, and I love Joe Flacco, he's had a great career. If we can't play better against the Cleveland Brown offense and Jacksonville's offense,
we're in trouble.
And I don't keeping it real. I don't care if they're 2-0. But if they're giving up 27-28 to those two teams, and Joe somehow goes and scores 30 and they win, it's still going to be concerning to me.
But that's why I was saying, though, winning those games doesn't mean that much.
What it looks like.
It's what it looks like, right? It's what it feels like. But the other piece on the games from last year, think about this. It's the fumble going into the end zone against the New England Patriots. It's Joe Burrow fumbling the ball and the scoop by the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
It's the pass interference late. And so it's how do you find ways to make those small plays, right?
Yeah.
The minute details that goes into wins and losses, because I don't think we thoroughly covered why they lost early last season.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear. I know that if they win the first 2 or 3 games, doesn't mean that they're a lock to win the division or anything like that. What I'm saying is they can't lose.
Agreed.
It's over. The Philadelphia Eagles have won Super Bowl 59.
We're not the defending champs, but the 2024 world champs, that's it. We're not defending.
When the season's over, we move on.
Judgment on the outside. I don't care if he did everything he needed to do for us to win the game.
If you don't want to win a Super Bowl or don't think we can win a Super Bowl, then don't come to Oxnard.
We're not going to win a championship with just one person.
It's NFL and it's game 1. Doesn't matter who the hell you're going against.
Let's go! We're here.
The Cowboys offense will be looking to bounce back this season after a rough 2024 campaign where Dak Prescott missed 9 games. However, expectations high on that side of the ball this year with the addition of George Pickens, Javonte Williams. Dallas will hope to get their high-scoring offense back on track. Dan, will the Dallas offense be a problem for Philly's defense tonight?
I think it can. I think there's 2 specific ways it has to.
Tell me.
I've said number 1, there's a little bit of unknown about Dallas's offense. Okay, Brian Schottenheimer is the new head coach. He's calling the plays. He hasn't done it in 5 years. So for the Eagles defense, you're like, I don't really know who they're going to be. All offseason, we've heard Schottenheimer say, we want to modernize the offense. So there wants to be more motions, more condensed formations, more shifts, different personnel groupings. So if you're Philly, you're kind of guessing of what that's going to look like. So I think if Dallas does that and uses no huddle tempo, forces communication by the Eagles defense with some new pieces in their secondary at home with the crowd noise loud, that could be advantage Dallas. I'd also say this, and maybe I'm in a smaller group of this, I think George Pickens is still ridiculously talented. I think he's one of the most talented, physically talented receivers in the NFL. He would get 12 plus targets for me tonight. Darius Slay's no longer in Philly. Darius Slay's going to be a potential Hall of Famer. And Adoree Jackson, who should be opposite Quinyon Mitchell, their second-year corner. Adoree's played in the NFL a long time, good player, but he's not Slay. And so I think if Dallas can use some tempo, hit some shots down the field, and let George be a huge impact in this game, yeah, I think they can give Philadelphia the Eagles defense some problems, especially early on.
I agree with you, believe it or not, at least for the first 3 quarters. I would tell you this. I think, like I said earlier, I think the Eagles going to run away with it late. I think Dak Prescott's going to throw about 2 interceptions, but that doesn't mean numbers-wise he's not going to have a big enough game, certainly with the CeeDee Lamb and a George Pickens as a target. And let's not get Ferguson as well at the tight end spot.
Yeah.
I get all of that, right? My thing is this. If you are the Philadelphia Eagles defense, you want to get to Dak. Dak hasn't been running with the football over the last few years, not nearly as much as he ran earlier on in his career.
Sure.
And some believe that has been an impediment to the kind of success that he's capable of enjoying. That's number one. Number two, how stout is Dallas's offensive line? We don't know about that yet, okay? That's number two. Number three, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles offense, I'm testing Trayvon Diggs. I mean, obviously, he had an injury. He's coming back from it, what have you. If he's expected to be out there or whatever, I'm testing that, okay? I'm testing that. I'm not trying to test Bland. I'm not trying to test him too much. I'm just saying, you're the Philadelphia Eagles. You've got Devontae. You've got A.J. Brown. You've got Saquon Barkley. Press. Put the pedal to the metal. Put Dallas on his heels. Force Dak Prescott to try and beat you, because I think that's how the mistakes are going to happen. I think that's what the Eagles are going to do.
I'm going to be honest, man. It is like a very trendy thing to do, to doubt Dak Prescott. This ain't the year. I truly believe Dak Prescott is going to have one of those years where his name starts to be talked about in the top 5, the top 10 again. The last time Dak Prescott was healthy for an entire season, he was second in MVP voting.
You're right.
They're going to be a problem tonight. I love the fact that Dan pointed out we haven't seen what a Brian Schottenheimer game plan looks like executed from the mind of Schotty. We also haven't seen what do you do when you double CeeDee Lamb and now George Pickens is one-on-one on the outside. And I don't care what anybody in the world thinks. When we're talking one-on-one matchups, 50-50 footballs, there's no one better in the world than George Pickens. Now, there's some who are the same, right? You're going to say people like Jamar Chase, you're going to say people like Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf are the same, but they ain't nobody in the world that's better. Problem is, he's never had a quarterback as good as Dak Prescott.
Good point.
He's never played in a room with someone like CeeDee Lamb who can attract some attention. So it's really going to be on the law firm of Sanders, Williams, and Blue. Can we get a run game? Because if they could get a run game and get it to play action pass, it's going to be trouble. We also have to remember Jahad Campbell is going to make his first start, who I think is going to be an absolute terror at the linebacker position. But it's going to be big for him tonight. Then you got to think about the outside, Adoree Jackson. Off of that, Jake Ferguson is a dude.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an adjustment for Vic Fangio in this defense of the Eagles very early against Dak Prescott.
Okay, but let me ask a question because, like I said, I defer to y'all. I get it. But let me ask y'all a question, both of you two here.
Yes, sir.
Now, do you make anything out of the fact that you just both said that Brian Schottenheimer is going to be calling plays, obviously, for the first time in 5 years? Why the hell he ain't calling in the last 5 years?
Because he's been with Mike McCarthy.
Is that the only reason? Is that the only reason? Or is it because it didn't enamor anybody? See, we got to ask these kind of questions now. See, and I don't like y'all look at me like that, but I get it from y'all. Because you see, this is the kind of question that Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky would bring up. Why you ain't called plays for the last 5 years?
Well,
Maybe you wasn't that
dude. Actually, we wouldn't bring up the question because we're here.
No.
You can't speak for us like we're not sitting here.
I'm just saying. The point is, I know y'all the way that I know y'all. If somebody went 5 years without calling plays, y'all would pick on up. Y'all would pick up on that. Y'all would go like this. Maybe he ain't that dude. Maybe he ain't the dude to be calling those plays. That's number one. Okay? That's number one. Let's go out the way. Number two, with the running game, Javonte Williams. He comes over from Denver. I know the brother could play. I ain't hating on him. Yeah. But you didn't want to play Rico Dowdle $6 million. He had to go to Carolina and get one.
I swear, you make comments just to say certain names.
No, just said names.
He does like Rico Dowdle.
It's going to be 2032. It could be Rico Dowdle.
It's true. Rico Dowdle. You understand?
Rico's a great name.
Here's my point. Yeah, ain't mad at Rico Suave.
It definitely sounds like something you charge somebody with.
How about that? How about that? Damn right. So here's my point to y'all. You got a cat that you got for 1 year, $3 million. How good is he? What's the possibility of the Dallas having that running game so Dak can get in the play action? See, this is what I'm thinking about. And I'm thinking about you ain't going to be able to do that. And if you ain't going to be able to do that, he going to have to pass. And if he going to have to pass, he going to get his numbers because he'll pick you apart for the most part until that moment arrives.
Jimmy's Christmas.
Until that moment arrives. And then
so that's the thing, right?
Moment arrives, bow, they come crashing down. That's what I
has Dak Prescott progressed past that, right? Because if you remember 2 years ago when he was second in MVP voting, it was the atrocious outing against the 49ers.
In the playoffs.
In the regular season. I'm saying in the regular season.
Right. In San Francisco.
It was in San Francisco. Then the next week, I believe they were at the Chargers.
Okay.
Right. And they end up winning late. Yep. Dak throws a good ball for a touchdown. And now he goes on this run until you get to the playoffs against Green Bay. And then we all know it fell apart. Has Dak Prescott progressed past that as far as it pertains to the regular season, I think is what's important.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people care about what Dak Prescott does in a positive way during the regular season. I think it's fair to say when Dak's healthy and he starts, this team scores 28 a game and they win 11 or 12 games.
Yeah.
Very, good to very good quarterback. It's the playoff shortcomings that are the conversation of Dak Prescott. I've often said for a couple of years, RC, he's played himself into that group. It's not in the Lamar group and it's not into the Josh group when it comes to that stuff.
No
it's that same world.
Yeah.
But Dak is there. Listen, I agree. I think this offense is going to be a really good offense. I really do. I think the backs are fine because this offensive line has got 3 first-round picks in it. So
they're better block.
Yeah, a lot of backs should have success. To answer your shoddy question, I think part of it is because he was in Dallas with Mike McCarthy, who calls his own plays, and I believe before Dallas he was in Jacksonville with Doug Peterson, who calls his own plays. So I think Brian Schottenheimer is more than capable of being a good offensive play caller.
Yeah, and it's also the difficulty, though, of thinking about a guy like Mike McCarthy who was out of football.
Right.
Then he comes back and he calls plays. Or you could think of someone like Matt LaFleur, who was actually the offensive coordinator in Los Angeles, but he doesn't call plays until he's with the Tennessee Titans. And then he's working with Aaron Rodgers running his stuff. And then we watch him last year, and there's a creative explosion because of what he could do because of the freedom. And so it's not necessarily for me, Stephen A., that Brian Schottenheimer has to be this great play caller. It's that they're not going to know what sort of play caller he is with the Dallas Cowboys roster.
And the other thing I'll hit you with is this. George Pickens is playing for money.
There's no question.
People act right for money now.
That's right.
George Pickens is playing on a contract
Glad you
here.
brought